Okay, welcome everybody. Happy World Circus Day. And thank you for joining us for our second event of the FSU Circus Alumni Weekend Virtual Edition. We had a great evening of happy hour and trivia last night hosted by SOCI. And today we've got our annual meeting, and later tonight we will be hosting a watch party for the 2011 home shows around the world. It's the 10th anniversary of that show, so we thought it might be fun to throw it back this weekend. And let everybody enjoy a viewing of that wonderful production we put on as students. So I'm Nicole Fernbach-Viverito. I am the president of the FSU Circus Alumni Association. We also have with us Sosi Kekwari. She is the vice president. Our secretary for the last year's been China Dedinger. She was previously president. And then we have Lori Alley as our treasurer and Sarah Ray Abel as our student alumni liaison. And so we're excited to welcome you today. Oh, China's here. Great. So I wanted to start off just by recognizing some of the alumni who have passed since our last meeting in 2020. We would like to have a moment of remembrance for Ron Woody and Sharon Connor. And if you know of any other alumni who have passed in the last year, please let us know their names and we can be sure to remember them as well. So we'll just take a few seconds in their honor. All right. I know it's been a really hard year and a lot of things have been quite different, but we're excited for the future of the FSU Circus and the Alumni Association. And with that, I'd like to welcome all of our new alumni, the graduating seniors of 2021, who will be joining us hopefully at future events. I'm going to read off a list of names of those graduating seniors. I apologize if I mispronounce any of them. I'm going to do my best, but I'm not a ringmaster. So I've been doing my best to study. So we have Emily Fish, Nicole Vitiello, Daniel Kane, Trevor Potter, Allie Brannon, Shelby Lank, Becca Beal, Trevor Donnelly, Hope Stevens, Jaya Smith, Lydia Nord, Adam Rhodes, Olivia Rhodes, Doran Muchitello, Emily Holt, Jack Heckler, Mary Johnson, Nick Handel, Nico Wilson, Russell Lewis, Will Moscone, Cameron Long, and Brandon Maycutt are our graduating seniors of 2021 joining the FSU Circus Alumni Association.
Congratulations.
All right. So over the last year, most of you know we've been entirely virtual. Not much has been happening in person, but I wanted to give the floor to FSU Circus Director Chad Matthews to tell us more about what's been going on with the program, what the plans are coming up, and then I'll talk more about what we've done on the alumni side over the last year.
Hey guys. Nicole covered it. She's right. I mean, obviously, very different year, and I guess a little over a year now at this point, where our last rehearsal was the Friday before spring break, March before last, so 2019, and we had yet to go into, or we're just about to go into our dress rehearsals for our new show that we didn't quite get to do. So, and since then, over the summer, obviously, as you all know, we didn't run any summer activities. At that point, the university was pretty much shut down operationally at that point. We spoke to Callaway early on. We never actually had a contract with them, and they have just been taken over by Hershman Entertainment. So we're working with a new leadership group there, which is always kind of fun when those transition there. So that opportunity wasn't even on the table, and we couldn't have done it anyway because everything shut down, including like interstate travel from university. So yeah, so that became pretty clear pretty quickly. So from there, it's been kind of difficult just because, like everybody else, we haven't been able to plan very far in advance. So the fall was basically just pushing kind of like moving the goalposts, shall we say, but like moving our goals like a month ahead. Like, hey, we're gonna, because at one point we considered doing auditions at some point, which we normally do in the beginning of the semester. That was obvious we weren't going to do that, but maybe at the end of the semester, we don't know what November is going to look like. Turns out November wasn't much better, if not much worse. So, and obviously the university hadn't made any calls on doing anything, and we weren't comfortable proceeding. So the fall was, and most of the year basically was primarily online, like Nicole said. We did offer some very limited in-person rehearsal, but it was, as you all know, once you put distancing protocols in place, it becomes tough to do much of anything circus-wise. So we were able to do a little bit, and we kind of made it optional for our students too, who were like eligible to rehearse in person. We weren't going to push them to do that if they weren't comfortable to do it, because they weren't even like on campus either necessarily. They were taking their classes remotely. So so we tried to follow kind of like Campus Rec's lead a little bit, like in how they were operating. It seemed to be the kind of closest thing to operate. They're also in the division of student affairs as we are. So it was hard to get any kind of I don't say leadership, but it was hard to kind of like get an idea of what we needed to do. So we kind of had to take it upon ourselves to work with these other groups and determine like what was our best course of action, and that's what we did. So go in the spring semester, we obviously didn't take the tent down. We weren't able to do that. I can't say that any of us were really disappointed in that. None of us lost any sleep over that one. We spring same. Like, we did mostly the same kind of programming. We tried to knowing more, like having a long-term plan in the spring allowed us to kind of like come up with some ideas to do some more online offerings. Like we did some stretching conditioning classes pretty consistently throughout. We did, I think we introduced, like, we tried to introduce juggling. Nate did some like act review things where we could break down professional acts. Like we tried to really brainstorm different things. We did dance a little bit as well. So we tried to offer as much as we possibly could. But I think Nate can attest here is I think what we saw was literally like everyone kind of got burnt out on Zoom, honestly. The students did, because they were doing everything on. So I think it was just kind of like had a very limited lifespan, honestly. Like it's a good tool, but certainly they were doing everything on it. So they weren't totally invested in that. So we had, not a lot of students. We had over 200 students sign up. So they had to sign up and register. So we still had a lot of interest in the circus. So that's very encouraging. But yeah, it just we weren't able to like do much in terms of Zoom. It's like, again, it doesn't translate. So we didn't want to do anything that was dangerous for them either without having obviously spotting anything. So we had to be careful. So we tried to do some juggling stuff. They just weren't into it so much. I ran some like 75th planning with the students to kind of get their input. That was actually pretty good. We had some pretty good participation there, but again, good participation was kind of limited when you take into consideration how many students signed up. We weren't getting like 10% of our students participating in these things. I mean, maybe total, but like that's a pretty small number, honestly. So that's where we are. Again, had some limited on-site rehearsals, but again, not a ton you could do. And that's where we are. Obviously, it became pretty clear pretty early on in terms of the spring semester that we weren't going to be able to get something together for home show, just in terms of like building acts, because we hadn't done anything yet. So, we obviously decided that home show wasn't feasible in any way, really, because we hadn't trained anything. I mean, take out the fact that we couldn't actually have an audience either. And then once you start playing that out, it became pretty clear that we weren't going to have anything ready for Callaway either. So we had, again, talks with the new leadership at Callaway about that. Then they didn't really anticipate us being there, honestly. They didn't have us in their, at least this summer's plans. They ran, last summer, they tried to run a version of the Summer Family Adventure Program, a very like, scaled down version, obviously with no circus. And with no circus students to run the activities. So they had interns. I think those of you who've been at Callaway in the last like 10 years or so have seen like the way they use interns and to kind of like to supplement the staff. And it's been pretty successful for them. This past year they ran like, it's kind of open. Like it wasn't anything close to what we've been able to do in the past there. It was very open-ended. They had like scheduled family activities because they didn't like break the kids up into groups and stuff. They didn't like, nothing like that. It was they had some scheduled activities that you could run, but it wasn't anything close to what they were able to offer when we're there. Simply because they don't have that staff. So anyway, they obviously, are keeping in touch with them. Obviously we'll have discussions about next year, probably towards the end of this year, beginning of next, that's about our schedule with them. So play that one by ear. We also, I guess technically we could run a summer camp, but the problem we ran into there was like we probably can't run a summer camp and build a show up for the fall. So we were fortunate in working with the student union and in terms of being able to, well, okay, there's a second part to this too. We realized we were going to do some sort of training in the summer to kind of build back up our show so we could have something that we could do in the fall and kind of try to like get back into our normal performance schedule. Because everything, it's a circle, right? Like you have to, like, if you have a gap, it affects something else down the road. So like to have the spring show that we want to have, we kind of need to have fall shows, right? Typically we need to have summer shows, but that's obviously not on the table. So the next best thing is to train during the summer. But how do you get students to say, a significant number of students to stay on campus in the summer if we're not paying them? We didn't think that was an option. So fortunately, we're able to work with the union and do some creative financial endeavors. No, we were able to move some money around and make it happen so we could actually fund a 40-person staff of students whose primarily will be training this summer. So it's pretty exciting. And honestly, it's a one-off basically, but I'd like to do this often. Honestly, I'd love to. I mean, this is like for us, it's what we want to do. Have like a big group of students we can train with, and that's all they're doing. They're not going to school. We're not running any other programming. We're just can train. That's kind of it's really great, in terms of like being able to build up a show, and that's what we absolutely need. So that's what we're doing, and we're in the process now of interviewing students. We may have interviewed an ABLE yesterday, and so that's moving along. It's a little time consuming, and I think the thing that was really telling is like we cannot run a remote audition because that would take 2 months probably. We can do it in a small, and that's basically what we're doing now. Is we're running like these kind of like very small kind of audition type of sessions, but it takes about 20 minutes per student. And that's if we're running fast. I don't know, Nate, we've kind of broken them up. So like Nate and Charlie and I are doing some, and Nate and Hannah are on others. So I think, and I'm not talking, so Charlie can go faster. So we can keep it down to 20, 25 minutes with him doing it. God knows if I was doing it, how long it would take. So anyway, so that's our summer staff, that's our summer plan for the upcoming months. We're going to start in July as a plan. We're going to run all the way up to the beginning of the fall semester. So we're pretty excited about that. And then that gives a month to kind of like start prepping the facility again, because we really haven't used it about a year. So, but yeah, so that's the semester. I don't know if you, Nicole, if you want me to go into like what's happening after this or what we're kind of working on, or is that okay if I do that?
If you'd like to, or we can save that for, we have an upcoming events line item on the agenda, and we can talk about plans for fall on the 75th then, if you'd like.
That's perfectly fine. It's more broad, but like if you want to move on for other stuff, that's perfectly fine.
Okay. So just to recap some other things that we've been working on the past year. So we held several virtual events. We kicked it off with a holiday happy hour, and since then we've done the Q&A with Chad about the circus expansion project. We have a recording of that if anybody missed it. We did a virtual brunch, we did a trivia night, and then of course this weekend we have several events going on. And so we think we've hit our stride as far as, you know, keeping people up to date and also having some fun with our circus friends. So thank you to everybody who's been a part of those events over the last few months. We also continued our student alumni career networking efforts that were started before my time, but we held a couple of virtual panel Q&A sessions. And so we did one on graduate and professional school, and then most recently we had an event on careers in circus arts and entertainment. And so we hope to continue using this type of platform to keep connecting with the students as well. We also created an Instagram account to hopefully increase our reach. So if you don't follow us on Instagram, please do. And if you have any content you would like to share on any of our social media accounts, please send that my way. And we'll also be piggybacking off of a lot of what Selena and Hannah do on the circus program side of things. We often share what they post. And then we've also been updating our alumni directory. So I'll share a link in the chat if you would like to update your contact information with us. And we also make sure that the circus has that information if they're sending out invitations to like the 75th anniversary home shows. So if you want to receive that information, please make sure you update your directory listing with us. Other things that we did this last year is we nominated Max Harris to the FSU Athletic Hall of Fame. That was led by Coach Katarzi, Chuck Ross, and Terry Smith, and we're still waiting to hear the results of that vote, but hopefully those will be coming soon. They are usually announced in the summer. And then the other thing we've been working on is planning for the 75th anniversary. So we have formed a committee, and we're working closely with Chad and the circus staff to hold a big party next year in the spring, and we'll talk more about that shortly. But beyond that, I do also want to give Shannon Calloway a moment to tell us about the revival of the Oral History Project and all the progress they have made over the last year as well.
Cool, thanks, Nicole. All right, so yeah, a lot of you are already familiar with it, but just to recap, myself and John Kilgo, who's a 90s alum, or I guess a dinosaur, depending on what phrase we're using, are in the process of kind of rehashing, as Nicole said, this oral history project. And we've had a lot of support from the Alumni Association, a lot of like sort of sponsoring of getting things done. The idea is to kind of create like a living repository of stories from the circus. And we have, I don't know, probably 15 or 20 interviews already kind of in the bag, and working on just getting more. Ideally, we would really like to get interviews from like the 50s and 60s. That's been a challenge. Got a lot of stuff from the 90s, a lot of stuff from the 2000s. Our big challenge right now, to be like perfectly frank, is that we have a lot of people who are interested in being interviews, but we don't have a lot of people who are like have the time or are interested in helping to process the interviews. So that's kind of what we're trying to bridge and figure out. But I mean, it's been amazing. It's been super fun for me to talk to like fellow alum and get their stories, and everyone's got like some really interesting perspectives or stories about what's going on. Even like people that I performed with where we have really different interpretations of the same events has been like really interesting and super fun, connecting with old people, making friends with other alumni. So the idea, kind of the perfect scenario is that for the 75th, we would be able to contribute some stuff. There is like a potentially a sort of circus museum exhibit happening in Dodd Hall. That will be sort of throughout the year for next year for like the whole 75th year. And what we would really like is to be able to contribute something to that with the oral history project, whether it's like actually being able to listen or just some text graphics. It would be, in a perfect world, great to sort of produce some sort of tangible something to give away or to sell at the 75th. This is all very theoretical at this point. And we don't want to stop it at the 75th, you know, we want to continue it, but the kind of using the like the momentum and the excitement about the 75th to like really get people interested and really get people excited about coming forward. And just kind of capturing a history of the circus at FSU, you know, through the voices of the people who are performing or coaching or, you know, just helping make costumes or whatever it was. So it's been amazing. If anyone wants to get involved, some of you outed yourself last night with great stories, so you're on the list, the contact list today. But if anyone else wants to get involved, I'll put my email in the chat and you can send me an email, and I would love to, you know, talk to you about your experiences.
Awesome, thanks, Shannon. And the other contact for that, if you missed his name, is John Kilgo. Shannon did say it, but we also have his email address. You can reach out to either of them and they'll get you set up with the oral history project. All right, so I'm going to hand it back to Chad to talk about what we've got upcoming potentially to look forward to for the fall and the spring.
Thank you. Yeah, so in the fall is still kind of a little bit of a moving target. You know, obviously our goals are primarily to get a show together for our Halloween shows, you know, and then that's and the dates are to be determined on that. It'll be around Halloween, but we're always navigating the football schedule there. Parents, formerly known as Parents Weekend, is now known as Family Weekend, and we're trying to kind of try to figure out like what kind of level of participation we'll have in that. Probably by that's first week in October, I believe. So that would be like right after we finish kind of all our auditions and things. In a normal year, that would be kind of an aggressive time schedule anyway for us. So it probably won't be on the table for us to have like a show for that. But we're trying to figure out what we can do for that. So there may not be a traditional show for that, but we're trying to, you know, do something, you know, that to have some kind of, like I said, some level of participation that's to be determined a little bit. But we hope to have like our first kind of like full live experience and for our Halloween shows. That's our goal, and that's actually what we're like going into the summer program with, trying to determine that. So that's our fall schedule, and I think after that, I mean, we hope that everything is otherwise the same. Like we're gonna start at the beginning of the semester, have a regular kind of recruitment audition process, do that the same, and be able to actually build a show from there, you know. So that's the fall. The spring, obviously, we've been kind of thinking about this internally for a long time. We've been talking about it with you guys for a long time as the 75th anniversary. So we know that's gonna be, particularly now in light of everything else, we haven't done a show in 2 years. At that point, it's gonna be a really big deal for a lot of reasons. So we want to make sure we do this right, and do the best job we can, and not only with the show, obviously you know, but with the events surrounding it, you know. So you know, we've been working, like I said, I had like a small kind of informal work group with the students just to kind of like brainstorm ideas for the 75th in terms of like the on-stage stuff, the off-stage stuff, you know, just kind of think it out from their perspective too, because I think they can offer something. And obviously we've been talking about like the events surrounding, and that's just a work in progress. You know, I think one of the challenges we're finding is kind of like trying to work on like securing venues and things for the different events that we're gonna have. And because there's some really good options if we can only get people to call us back. That's the struggle now. So that's with the 75th. Obviously, we're pretty excited about all of that. And once I remembered back about 4 or 5 years ago that 75th was coming up, it was like, oh wait, that's coming up around the corner. Right after the 70th, it occurred to me that there would be a 75th, and that would be, Chris, approximately 25 years after the 50th. In case you're,
I think that math checks out.
okay. Anyway, that's a stark reminder. Anyway, but yeah, so and remembering how big that show was and how big the events surrounding it were, the participation we had from alumni. Now we have 25 more years of alumni as well on top of everything else. So really looking forward to all of that, and obviously the work that's tying in with Shannon and Kilgo. I think we are really a great addition for that. And then like we said, we're doing so in addition to doing the show itself, we're trying to kind of like work with community as well, just on campus, and trying to like making it like a semester long event, kind of like, so obviously we have the culmination of everything will be the shows, but we're working with the Museum of Fine Arts right now on campus to do, unfortunately it'll be earlier than the shows, so it'll be I think they're securing funding for it now, but it'll be kind of a partnership between them and the Ringling Museum. And it'll be featuring some things from us as well. So that'll be a pretty cool thing. And what we're going to try to figure out some virtual options for that as well. Once that's online, that was actually one of the things that we wanted to include, because that'll be like a month out. I think they have to wrap that stuff up in March because just of the school schedule. Sorry, Shannon. Yeah, pouty face. But hopefully there's some virtual options there too, that because I think in talking with them, that'll be a pretty big deal. So that with the things that we're gonna do, and Heritage Museum at Dodd Hall, that again, that's a semester long thing, and there's lots of like natural partnerships we have with other groups in the division and with the union. There's the Student Life Cinema we can run. Hopefully we can run circus movies and things. So we're trying to tie all these things together. In addition to that, there's the new union opening, allegedly this October. We'll see. But hopefully we'll have, there may be some possibility we have some presence in there too. Not physically, obviously, but like, having some, can we have photos in there? Those questions are still up in there a little bit, but that has been something we're working on, that hopefully we can have, again, something that we can do. And I think that's a space that we can consider using too, when we get to the 75th, because that's going to be it's a really big building, it's brand new. So maybe some opportunities there. So that's the 75th. And obviously, Nicole referenced the facility project that's ongoing. Well, the project's not ongoing. The fundraising part is ongoing. But and honestly, like the development for that is kind of ongoing. The only thing we have now is a rough kind of floor plan. Basically, like we kind of did a study with the architects to determine our space needs and the unique layout of our property where we're located provides some challenges. And so we had to kind of be creative in how we could create a facility, and then we did that. And I'm pretty pleased with our plan that we have now. It's gonna, where do we go from here? I'm not entirely sure. There's some fundraising initiatives that we're launching, and obviously through the summer, I want to try to get some more detailed renderings of a potential facility, because I think those kind of things will be important. And I think like kind of doing this in tandem with the 75th is really can be really beneficial for us to see, to get everyone on the same page in terms of like what our vision for the future is. It's not just the building, right? It's the building is important because to address our facility, because it's just old, and it's a little small for what our needs are at this point. What does a building do in terms of our operation? Like how can we expand? How can we do things better and bring in more people? Those are all things that we can do with the new building, and that's kind of telling that whole story, right? Again, 75th is a good opportunity to do that, I feel. So that we're trying to have at least a lot of that stuff in place. Like I said, the renderings I think will be really helpful to kind of see the vision of what we're thinking about in terms of a new facility. So along with that, speaking of new facility, we're getting a new gate apparently. That it was another, it was kind of a side project, and we are apparently awarded, or we weren't technically, it's awarded to facilities a $40,000 grant to build a gate. It's like, there's a lot of other needs that we have that we could address very well with $40,000, but we don't get to say where that money is getting used, but we'll have a nice gate out of it. So I guess that's good. I mean, you know, it'll be nice. So we're working with them now. Like Nate can tell you, they kind of literally called me and they were like on site to measure it out. Like, so it's kind of the thing for us now is kind of interject ourselves in that conversation, you know, like force ourselves into the conversation with term, like how we want this gate. So it'll be something that we can like that we will incorporate into the renovation too, because there's a lot of things we have planned that'll be in the front end of the facility. Like the idea is to push out a lot farther out and have a lot more space as you come in. So hopefully we can get that stuff done. So anyway, but the gate thing was just kind of something we were surprised with, you know. Anyway, so yeah, so along with that, I mentioned some fundraising initiatives. You guys will undoubtedly see those things coming out. We have a mailer coming out in the next couple of weeks that'll have some more details on this. But we're launching a monthly giving initiative where you have the opportunity to give, which just gives more people an opportunity, a different way to give, like smaller amounts monthly rather than like solicitations for bigger gifts. So it kind of try to give more options for people to contribute where they can, if they want to. So pretty excited about that one. Again, that one's still on the ground floor, but I think there's some exciting things we can do with a monthly giving initiative, like maybe some benefits for giving levels and things. I've pitched tying it into the brick project. Undoubtedly, this new facility in the entranceway will have a lot of bricks. Like everything's going to have a lot of bricks on this campus, evidently. But it may be a way that we can like tie them together. So I'm still kind of, that's going to take a little bit of work to convince them that that's worthwhile. But I think it's a good way to kind of tie it in formally with something where you hit a benchmark, like you give monthly, maybe you give $10 a month at it, and once you hit a benchmark, you get a brick. It sounds simple to me, but apparently the logistics of that is more difficult than I'm probably giving it credit for. But anyway, but that's kind of where I want to go with that. If I can, again, kind of convince them to go that way. Because I do think we've kind of lost sight a little bit of the brick stuff, and only because it's been informal and we've done it in-house, like us doing it. So I'd like to get Foundation kind of on board with helping us maintain that and hopefully expand it. So, and it's something that we get a lot of questions on. So, and on top of that, you know, there's some other fundraising opportunities I think we can take advantage of, like in terms of, I think maybe Jack asking, I think Jack Rice, but we're gonna have some giving opportunities and just like ticket purchases. That's something we can do too. So that's working with Fine Arts Ticket Office. They handle our ticket sales. That is actually something pretty common they do, where you have an option to donate when you buy tickets. So that option will be there going forward for everybody who buys tickets. And then along with that, I think they can help us in terms of packages for the 75th for alumni. So we should be able to tie in a full package where like whatever kind of fee for the after party or opening gala or whatever, we can tie that all in one package, and they can that can just go through the ticket office, and then we don't have to worry about that kind of collection and ticket distribution and that sort of thing. That'll be a big help, I think, with running that, and the distribution of tickets particularly can be tough. So yeah, so that's one other note. Apparently we got news yesterday that our development officer foundation, speaking of fundraising, Sarah is leaving the university. So got that news yesterday. So that's fun and timely. It could be worse. It could be this time next year, and that'd be bad. But she'd been doing a good job with us, and we're kind of building towards something, particularly with the facility stuff. I thought we had a good working relationship with her. So obviously they'll try to replace that position as much as fast as possible. But just in case you know, like she's kind of our she works directly for Foundation technically. She doesn't work for FSU because technically they're two different things. She's kind of housed in Westcott, so she works in Division of Student Affairs, but and she kind of oversees all the fundraising for Division of Student Affairs. So that's a lot of different things, and typically that's only one person. So it's when we get somebody who's actually focused on us, that's a really good thing, because it's hard because their attention is kind of pulled in a lot of different directions, and so I'll be curious. The other thing of note with the 75th and everything that we're doing with it and the fundraising and things is that the university is going through the process of replacing President Thrasher, and that should happen soon, I guess. they had a committee meeting about 2 weeks ago, I think, and I didn't see anything really come out of that. So, but that search is ongoing. So we could very easily see a new president coming in right alongside this show. So I think in a way, it's a really good way to kind of put our best foot forward with the new president coming in too. Having worked here for a while now under several presidents, it's, and Nate can tell you too, you know, we've had varying levels of participation or interest from presidents, from Dr. Barron, who was probably the most. I mean, he actually got on stage and opened several of our shows, to TK Weatherall, who came to maybe a half of one show one time. And so it's and anything in between, you know, like so it doesn't hurt to have the support of the president of the university, you know, obviously. So and since we're doing so many things and alongside the 75th, I think it's a good opportunity to kind of like really showcase ourselves. In the past, we've like given, you know, like with Dr. Barron, we actually like made sure he got like our 10-year plan, like our strategic plan when he came in office. And so he, at the very least, knows that we're kind of not just any other activity, that we have a plan and we want to, you know, we have a path forward. And I think that's hopefully we do the same thing with this new president. So yeah, but expect a mailer out in the next couple of weeks or so to kind of like summarize some of that stuff and give some more details. And there's some good stories, one on spoiler, Chuck Ross probably. So it should be really good.
Awesome. Yeah. So the 75th anniversary home shows will be the weekend of April 15th to the 17th of 2022. So that information will all be on that mailer, and we will put out all kinds of save the dates and share information about hotels and venues as we get them. We do already have 2 hotel blocks secured, and so we'll be able to circulate more of that information relatively soon. So we'll make sure that goes out by email, but also on social media so that everybody's up to date. All right. So the last matter of business for this meeting is that we are holding elections currently for our new board for the following year. And so we have been soliciting nominations for the open positions. So I'm halfway through my initial term as president, but with the way that these elections are lining up in our review of the bylaws, my position may actually extend to a 3-year term just to fill a gap between the vice president becoming the president-elect. So we are trying to honor the bylaws the way they were written for the elections. So with that, we'll be electing a vice president, secretary, treasurer, student alumni liaison, a social media chair, and hopefully a fundraising chair. And so we've received at least 1 nomination for all of those positions, with the exception of the fundraising chair. So we're waiting on one Jack Rice to hopefully accept his nomination for fundraising chair. But otherwise, our candidate for vice president and president-elect is Sosie Quarry. Shannon Calloway is our candidate for secretary. Lori Alley is our candidate for treasurer. Sarah Abel for our student alumni liaison. Lindsay Ray Myers Humley for social media chair. And then, as I mentioned, hopefully Jack Rice for our fundraising chair, but we'll see if he accepts. So that election will take place via digital ballot. Similar to last year, it'll be circulated again by email and also on our social media pages. So keep an eye out for that. Elections will take place through, I think initially we said through Tuesday. So once you receive it, please vote as soon as you get a chance. And if you have any questions, reach out to me or Sosi about those elections. And so this board will be in place for the 75th. So we'll be making the show happen. Well, not the show. We'll make it the rest of the outside of the show happen and supporting Chad and the program throughout the next year. So please participate in those elections. There are no other questions on the ballot. It's just for those seats. So it should be relatively quick. Any questions about elections? Sosi, did I miss anything?
Nope, you did not. The ballot is now live and I put it on Facebook.
Okay. Can you just drop it in the chat too, if you don't mind?
Yes, I can.
Thank you, ma'am. And in the chat is also the link to update your contact information for our directory. But at this time, I'm happy to open the floor for question and answer. If you just raise your hand and then we'll have anybody ask questions or make comments. Chris?
I have two quick things. So first off, I was just going to ask to invoke the dinosaur rule on things like the virtual gatherings for this weekend, because I didn't know about them because they were on Facebook. So if you could also like email that stuff out to the list, I would appreciate it. Just going forward. Then the other thing was for Shannon, for you said processing the audio histories. Is that, do you mean like editing, compiling, that kind of business, or what are you looking for?
Yeah, thanks for asking, Chris. We need people who actually are interested in like conducting some interviews. So John Kilgo has, I mean, he's just got this super organized brain and he has it kind of laid out, you know, step by step, like what he's expecting. And we have a live document on Google Sheets with, you know, whenever people reach out, they're interested in being interviewed, just, you know, slot them in. And then the idea is that we would have a core of volunteers who would pick and choose, you know, like, oh, I performed with so-and-so, or like so-and-so is on the West Coast and I'm also like, our time schedules meet up, whatever it is. And, you know, conduct the interview. The interviews in theory should last about an hour. As you might expect, sometimes they're much longer, especially if you're interviewing, you know, someone you performed with or are really close with, or, you know, have more to talk about. And then basically after that, once someone conducts the interview, the persons that are conducting the interviews, you just need to get like a release form or a consent form, and then you fill out kind of a little sheet. So we're not asking people to transcribe or do any sort of like audio editing. All we want is like a timestamp, basically. So, you know, at 13 minutes and 51 seconds, so-and-so talks about Max Harris catching the triple, or, you know, at 24 minutes and 36 seconds, so-and-so talked about like Dickie Princeton's last year in the circus, or whatever that was. And then send that us over to myself and John Kilgo, and we sort of make sure that it's audible, make sure that the audio is decent enough. Zoom actually strips out the audio and the video, so we don't even have to do that. And we kind of package it up and send it over to the Heritage Protocol.
Okay.
So.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah, of course.
Any other questions, comments?
I had a
Larry?
question. Yeah, I was just curious, where is this $40,000 gate located? I can't picture where you would put a gate.
So the gate will be like the entranceway. Oh my God, through my pen. I've never done that before. The entrance will be like the guest entrance to the tent, like the front entrance. Like right now, it's just a fence gate.
Right.
It's just replacing that.
Okay.
So yeah, it's going to be best I can tell. Now this is it's going to be like an archway. Like it'll be an archway with like a wrought iron gate, I think.
Okay.
I
So
don't
similar
know
to the baseball stadium.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be. I think there will be some similarities, and obviously we told them like it's, once we actually move forward with the project, this is going to need to be relocated because we want to have. The idea is to actually have the gate like a front end, like a straight away entrance into the tents, right? So you come into the gate and you go right in. Right now it's like it's a curve. It's not the most ideal entrance way. So it'll have to be relocated in some fashion. But yeah, that's where it'll go now. Yeah, like I said, we just kind of like, it was a surprise to us, honestly.
Yeah. I was just thinking of that because it seems like that might be the cart before the horse, just a little bit.
A little bit, yeah, a little bit. But it's, yeah. Sometimes like on the university side, it's like that. It's like there's just like these weird piles of money that they have to use by a certain time, and it never seems to line up with what you need to get.
I had one more follow-up question, if I could, different subject. Back to, you mentioned that there was a new management company or ownership of Callaway Gardens.
Right.
You said the Herschen or something.
Herschen Group, yeah, they run a number of different like family resorts. I think they run Dollywood.
Mhm.
They run Stone Mountain, a number of like aquariums, not the Georgia Aquarium, but like other like smaller ones, and a number of different like little like I guess you could call them like summer family entertainment, southern family entertainment places, essentially. I guess you could call it that. But yeah, it's I haven't experienced it at all. Like we haven't worked with them honestly because they took over in 2019 after we left, and then I've had a couple meetings with their new president a couple times. Seems reasonable. I mean, it's ultimately you kind of, no matter how many changes you have there, it always kind of ends up being the same. Mm-hmm. So like with them, like and the reason we don't like have no specifics for next year is we still negotiate with them on a year-to-year basis. So and we do it really late. Like I would prefer to not do that, but that seems to be the kind of situation we're in with them. So we will negotiate 2022 until like 2022, and it'll be like the last second, and it's always a tough deal with them. But hopefully with this is a real company, a real like entertainment company. Hopefully we can get some stuff a little more formalized with them. But yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm optimistic. I think they did actually have the things that we've had concerns with there for a long time, facility wise. They were aware, and they seem to have the same concerns. So that's helpful because for a long time they didn't have those concerns, and they certainly they deferred a lot of the maintenance to the point where it's just this kind of hole they're in. They have to dig out. So,
are they just a management organization, or did they actually buy the foundation and garden services?
I think they're just a management, but I could be wrong on that because I'm not entirely sure, because they do have the separate foundation. The Cali Foundation is still the same.
Right.
So I don't know if like they're contracted with the foundation to run the operation. I'm not entirely sure there. Sometimes, and they don't necessarily share that information with us all the time.
Thank you.
When we were up there over Labor Day weekend for the Hot Air Balloon Festival, we took tennis lessons just for fun. And it seems like tennis and golf are still owned and managed separately from the rest of the garden. So I think it's still a little compartmentalized. in that way. But they made like huge renovations to the tennis center. I know they upgraded a lot of the stuff for Fantasy and Lights. Obviously, they reskinned the tent. I don't know if they're doing any other renovations to the dressing rooms or bathrooms. But
They actually were saying they're going to tear that down.
okay.
Like our plan for what year was that? 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Initially, our initial talks were that they were going to tear that whole building down, which it needs it, honestly. And they were going to put us in like at least some temporary buildings to make it through that season, to then eventually replace the building entirely.
You mean that is the same building as when we dinosaurs were there?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, with some slight renovations, right?
Yeah, some slight changes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A coat of
Hey,
paint here and there.
Not much.
Yeah, there is a whole section. I mean, I know a little bit about it only because Dickie told me, would tell me like, oh, this used to be like an open area that we would sit in, that would sit out underneath the on the patio in between shows. And
Patio, sure.
and they walled that in. That became a children's center for a while, a toddler center rather. That became completely unusable. So they use it as like, as every unused spot there goes, it becomes storage. So it became storage for a long time. Yeah, it's rough.
Wow.
It's rough. They definitely need to address it. And don't get me started on the restrooms there.
Oh no, I remember those. Thanks. That's okay, Chad.
They got worse. They actually got worse.
They weren't good in the 70s.
I believe it. I believe it.
Okay.
Any other questions anybody wants to throw out there?
Oh, I did have some.
Go ahead, Chad.
Sorry. Yeah, it was actually a follow-up on Chris's comment. Was we are like currently we use like eye contact as like our email client because the university otherwise doesn't have a tool for us to use that's effective. But apparently they are going to, like, the whole division wide is going to move to a different kind of like client, I guess. I'm not sure. A different vendor is going to be contracted with eventually, and we'll see what that does. I don't know if it really changes anything, honestly, except you'll get the email from a different, it won't be eye contact, it'll be somebody else, but hopefully it allows us to make it a little more accessible. And it's not a great system that we have now, but.
Sure. I didn't get any emails. I haven't gotten emails for a little while for Circus Alumni updates. And I found out about this yesterday from Cogsy, so.
Yeah, and even when we do, it's like a 3-step process of Nicole telling me to email something out and then me not doing it. So it's.
Sounds about right. I remember how that works.
All right, you don't have to agree so readily.
I'm just messing with you.
Chris, if you could just fill out our directory form one more time, and I'll make sure that you're on the updated list so that the next time we send out emails, we'll be sure that you can get them.
I mean, I think I have updated on this form, but I'll do it again.
All right. We appreciate it. We're
Yeah.
still working through some kinks on our digital communications.
Yeah, I know. I get it. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you. Sheila, I see you raise your hand. Oh, sorry. Sarah was saying something.
I was just going to share that the Circus Club just had elections, and so they have a new board. And so I've talked to, and Sam is on it. So I've just talked to him and said, just keep me in the loop, so we can have some good communication there on what they're doing. I feel like, from what he says, that they are a very enthusiastic group, and they really want to, they're really looking forward to the 75th. And of course, with all this downtime they've had, they are just chomping at the bit to get going. And so, which makes me excited too. So just wanted to share that. Should be good. Should be a good year.
Yep. Awesome. All right, Sheila.
As the super dinosaur here, I just want to thank Nicole for being a super duper young president. You have done an amazing job, and I don't know that anybody says thank you enough. Well, nobody can ever say thank you enough. So one more time, thank you.
Thank you very much. It's been a lot of fun. And I hope that we can finally do something in person soon. I'd like to meet all of you face to face. And a shout out to the rest of the board too, who's helped me get my footing and really helped me get started in this position and kind of a weird time. So I want to thank everybody for their service on the board over the past year, who's helped us keep things rolling. Any other thoughts before I stop recording? All right, I'm gonna stop the